to my channel. Today is July 21st, 2026. It's about 9:43 a.m. Eastern Time. I have been at it since very early this morning, and I've been Scooby-Dooing the research on this property. So today we're talking about property 425 Ashe Cabin Hollow Road, Harriman, Tennessee, which has been the focus of most of my recent videos. But this property has been a really awesome kind of like case study for real estate. It's educational in a lot of ways because it's giving me an opportunity to show the buying and selling public just how valuable real estate agents are and a lot of the work that we do behind the scenes when we are researching property that you want to buy or researching property that you want to get listed and sold. And we need to be able to gather lots of data and records and evidence so we can prove to buyers and sellers what the potential is of the property, what the history is of the property, so on and so forth. So let's look at this crazy process that I have been going down, a rabbit hole I've been going down to find these records and find this proof and find this evidence. I'm very excited because over the past, I don't know, 12 or 13 days, I've been trying to get some of these answers, and I finally found some of them. So we're going to look at septic permit records, deed records. We're going to talk about construction permits and certificates of occupancy and why these are significant for this property and why the information I found is so cool. And then we're going to also talk about some educational factors regarding some of these things and what the property's potential is. So let's dive in. So in case you're not yet familiar with the property, I'm going to start by getting you just introduced to it quickly, and then we're going to go on to look at more. If you pull up the address 425 Ashe Cabin, that's A-S-H-E, Ashe Cabin Hollow Road. If you pull that up in Harriman on Realtor.com or Zillow.com, you'll be able to see the current full photo gallery. The MLS also contains lots of supplemental documents. If you would like those, you can reach out to me directly. If you don't have a buyer's agent, I can help you directly. If you already have signed a contract with a buyer's agent, you have to go through that agent. Just let your agent know that they can find the following supplemental documents. And this screen will show you the supplemental documents that are there as of this moment, 9:46 a.m. Eastern, July 21st, 2026. I'm going to be adding some more things there, but you can see some of the things we're going to look at today are the December 1980 septic permit under the name Lowery. We might also briefly touch on a historical deed record from 1982 from Lowery to Luffman. This one actually shows a name change of a property owner. And then a historic deed record from 1985 from Luffman to Phillips. There's some other documents here that are helpful. This is the zoning development potential document. This is a copy of communications directly from the zoning office that explains what the, sorry about that, guys, that explains what the development potential is, and it talks about up to 2 homes for every acre, and this is at least 7.75 acres. So 14 home sites is what you could potentially explore trying to achieve on this property. So really quickly here, I'm going to just start out by showing you this septic permit record. I'm going to talk about it, and then I'm going to tell you what I had to go through to get this record, which is really interesting. And this also will demonstrate not only how real estate agents in general are valuable and helpful, but also how working with me is a unique process because I have a lifelong background in multiple fields. One of those fields is database design, development, and analysis. So I understand the weaknesses and the strengths of different databases and how to go about finding things that a lot of other people just would never be able to find. So let's take a look at this septic permit, and I'm going to get it enlarged a bit. Okay, I think that's a good screen size right there for that image. So you can see where it was issued to Lowery. It was issued December 18th, 1980. You can see that the person planned to build that septic system was a Hubert, maybe Blaylock. It shows Ashe Cabin Road, Harriman, which we know it's Ashe Cabin Hollow Road. Okay, it's very common in historical records to see misspellings of words, road names shortened, miscommunications and things like that, and that can make it harder to find historical records. Also, this Lowry, their name changed, and they just put the last name and they didn't put the rest of the name. So the deep dive I had to go on was pretty crazy. So this shows they were asking for a standard type of system, and they were requesting for a residential permit that would accommodate 3 bedrooms. Now, this is a really sidetrack piece of advice, but I think it's really important. If you are ever looking at getting a septic permit, what I would recommend is that you ask for more bedrooms than what you actually want or need today, because you can try and prove what the property is capable of. Consider that, what's the word I'm looking for here? Consider that tactic. Discuss it with the soil septic permitting official. But I think that's a great way to go about it, because even though all you might want or need today is 3 bedrooms, if you can prove the potential of the property, or give yourself a setup for expansion in the future, or give a future owner of the property a setup for expansion, that just is going to add value to your property. The more you can prove you're able to do with your property, the more value that has, right? Because that's a unique ability that you've proven scientifically, in this case, that your property is able to do. Another thing that I tell people is, if you attempt anywhere in the state of Tennessee to get a septic permit and you're told that you cannot have the number of bedrooms that you wanted or needed, or you're told that you can't have a home at all, challenge that result. I can't tell you how many times and in how many different counties I have worked with sellers, I have worked with buyers, I have worked in a consulting aspect, and I have found cases where people have been told no, 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 and then we challenged it. We went a level up, we went outside the county, we found people to do analysis that were not within that particular county. There was one case study in Blount County that was especially shocking. I won't name names or anything like that, but it's just fascinating how sometimes getting a second opinion, or a third, or even a fourth, can radically change what you're able to do with your own property. Another thing that's really important to know is that where there's a will, there's a way. So there are lots of different types of septic systems, okay? There are non-standard systems, there are multi-chamber systems, there are all these new fancy systems. Additionally, aside from there being lots of different styles of systems and custom systems, you also have the ability to hire an excavator, a soil specialist. You can move the earth, you can change the earth, you can change rock layer and soil layer and all these different things. You can change the shape of the earth, you can change what's in the earth. So you can modify things. I mean, we have the ability to drill wells, right? We have the ability to anchor a home into the side of a cliff. So surely moving a little dirt and rock around is not too difficult. So where there is a will, there is a way to get something accomplished. If you want to try to put a total of 14 home sites on this property at 425 Ashe Cabin Hollow, you know, you can get a soil mapping done of the property. You can get an analysis done with an excavator, or maybe even also throwing in an engineer, for how you achieve that successfully and responsibly. And if you have a beautifully designed plan, how could zoning ever tell you no? Zoning has already said that, you know, the way this property is zoned, it allows for you to attempt this, right? So figure out what's important to zoning, figure out what their vision for Roane County is, and create a plan that makes them happy, makes you happy, and then is scientifically proven to be successful and permittable with the way the homes are placed, arranged, footprinted, and systems are designed. It's all about design. Okay, so we're going to scroll down here and look at a little bit more information, and we see on this permit there is a document diagram section, and it's showing the driveway coming from the road. So over here would be Ashe Cabin Hollow Road. There's the home. There's the tank over here. Now this is really interesting to me because the current owner told me that the tank was roughly here in relation to the back of the home. There's a little fire pit right there, and he said he believed it was under the fire pit. So this diagram would align with the area that he visually pointed out to me in person. Then this shows the field line that's proposed. Now, the document continues on with some additional details. And this document is, again, it is in the supplemental documents area. So now I'm going to show you how I found this document, okay? And also how it made me raise some questions. Actually, before finding this document, I was already suspecting some things about when was the home actually built. But this added more questions to that. So we're going to look at this Scooby-Doo mystery. Some parts of it have been solved. Some parts of it, the fine people over at Roane County Records, a man and a woman and another woman that I've talked to today, and actually I've probably talked to about 7 different people today between all these different offices in Roane and Knox where I've been doing research. But these wonderful individuals over here in Roane right now that handle historic and archived records, they're going to do some deep digging for me and see what they can find additional data to help support my theory here. So let's switch screens. And we are back here on this data page. Okay, so we're back here looking at the property, and this is the data system we're going to expand from in this part of the video. And you can see from this image here that the house is 2 stories. And this is showing you from the back, this is going to be burned off. These sheets have been taken down. Things have been tidied up. This picture was taken after an extreme amount of rain that we have had for multiple days. There is a massive basement, walkout basement, that would, with 2 windows, a huge garage door that would be awesome if converted into ceiling to floor windows. And also a residential door that I think should be converted into a glass door to let in the views and the light. And I have talked about turning that basement space into a master bathroom and laundry room on the side here, and then maybe 1 or 2 more bedrooms over here. Or you could also turn it into just a big, sunny, like, hangout area, right? And then put whatever furniture in there you wanted. So we're going to talk about some of the records here that are kind of confusing about, well, if the septic permit was issued in December of 1980, then the home should have been built after that at some point. So let's take a look. Also, really quickly, as we're scrolling down, these tax records show you that this property is zoned county, not city. That means you pay county property taxes only. These have been very stable for many, many years, and right now you're sitting pretty at $630 a year. Yes, that is only $630 a year. People coming from out of state have shock and awe about how affordable our property taxes are here in Tennessee. So this screen right here in the property characteristics summary, this is supposed to be pulling data from lots of different systems, and it's claiming the year built is 1980, and it's claiming that the effective year is 1992, okay? Of course, we have a basement level, a main level, and all these other spaces here, and the square footage of 2088 is based on the climate-controlled property space on the main level and the basement walkout level, okay? So focusing in on this section here, this alleged year built, but then the effective year. So I thought, this doesn't really make sense. That's a span of 12 years. I know that there was a septic permit issued in 1980 and that there were several deeds changing hands past that point, could it be that the home was actually built closer to 1992 and that the certificate of occupancy was issued in 1992? So that's one of the things that the staff in the Historic Records and Archives departments over at Roane County are researching for me today. So I cannot wait to see what they are able to find. The electronic records that are like quick and easy to click to find for construction permits, groundbreaking permits, certificate of occupancy permits, they're more like in the 2000s. So to me, this doesn't feel like it was that long ago because I was born in 1984. But as far as records are concerned, those decades are not in that quick electronic system yet. So we have to go back through the archives. So one of the things that I started doing in order to try and Scooby-Doo this thing is pull all the deed records. And this particular system does give us some convenience records. There's one that's clickable here from 2012, but the one from 1987, the one from 1985, they're referenced, but they're not click to order. So I had to research them and pull them from another system. And then the ones older than that, I had to find those in a research system by reading these in a chain, one by one by one. Because what will happen with deeds is in the deed, let's say there's a deed from 1985, within that deed, it will give you a reference code. And you use that reference code to research and find the deed that chains and connects to that one prior to it. Then you read that one to figure out which one chains and connects to that one. So it's kind of like it's giving you directions for where to go to find the record previous to itself. So I was able to find a few of those. Also, I will say that there were no septic permit records in the electronic system for Tennessee for a Charles Phillips, for a Teresa Phillips, for a Joyce Luffman, which are the names that were here. I knew that the permit had happened for the septic system supposedly around 1980 because that's when the house was supposedly built, right? According to this system claiming it was built in 1980. But I don't think the house was actually built in 1980, but we're going to find out. So I'm going to show you what those deeds look like. Before we get to those deeds, I'm going to show you, this is the line. This is the line that belonged to that septic record. You can see that the electronic system only indicated a last name. It did not indicate a subdivision, a lot, a map, a plat, a parcel, or a group. The road name has a misspelling in Ashe and a missing, two missing words. One missing word, because hollow is supposed to be in there. Sometimes you'll have variations of road names. Sometimes road names change over the years. Sometimes people are just working hard and they're busy and they write things down wrong or they type them in wrong. This was actually a misspelling on the document itself. This was actually how the client's name appeared on the document itself. So this was accurate data entry on the part of the staff with the electronic records. It was just that when the permit was created, it was simplified in the way things were notated and identified. So how did I figure out that the last name on the septic permit was going to be Lowery when on this screen there is no Lowery anywhere? By ordering the chain of history of deeds one by one by one and reading them, interpreting them, and looking for that clue that tells you where to locate the deed that existed prior to it. In reading through all those lines, I found this key section here where it says December 1982 by and between Rebecca L. Lowery, aka Rebecca S. Luffman. So it looked like there was a name change there. And she was the grantor. She was the seller in this particular deed. There was some kind of inheritance situation going on, it looks like, based on the language in this. But anyway, so once I had that last name, I thought, I, a lot of times historical records, especially the farther and farther back you go, if you're looking up a deed or you're looking up a building permit or you're looking up a septic permit, sometimes it's more frequently common for it to be in the husband's name as opposed to the wife's name, or in the father's name, as opposed to a daughter's name. Just men are typically, a lot of people don't know this, but women couldn't really have like their own bank accounts or even have loans or credit cards or mortgages without the permission or the consent or the co-signing of a husband or a father or a brother or an uncle, not that far back in history. So it's just often common as well that if there is a male relative or affiliation living, that a lot of records will be in his name. So since this had mentioned a Rebecca Lowery, but I didn't notice like a husband or a father mentioned or a brother mentioned, I thought, well, I'm just going to look for Lowery and then see if I can find a road name that looks like it's the right one. And that was how I finally found that record. So it was quite a research project there over the past several days. So let's shift back over here to this physical document of the septic permit. This says permit for construction of subsurface sewage disposal system. Okay, so again, December 18th, 1980. Now, this shows a curving driveway, which I think historically may have existed. The current driveway is more straight, but when you're walking the property, if you park at the house and you walk down the driveway to the road like I did in my hour-long tour video yesterday on YouTube, you can see there's this path right here that looks like it used to be a previous driveway with the way the land is shaped. So I think maybe historically there was a driveway that made that curve. And then over time, for whatever reason, they decided just to make it a straight shot over here. Maybe because they thought, hey, we might like to build something down here at some point. That would be my suspicion there. So what does this mean for the current property? The current property is considered a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. From what I understand, having talked to septic permit officials in many different counties over the years, adding another bathroom would not be an issue. This in the basement. And again, verify everything I tell you with the opinion of an actual septic permit official, because I'm not a septic permit official, but I'm just telling you things that I've been told and how I'm remembering those things I've been told over the years by different septic permit officials. Adding another bathroom downstairs would not be an issue in the walkout basement. Now, finishing out the basement to turn it into 2 more bedrooms, or into 1 big room that's just a space to enjoy, and then putting whatever furniture you want down there. Physically, does it look like you could put 2 more bedrooms down there? Absolutely. Now, the problem becomes if you were to convert that space down there to have 2 more rooms other than the bathroom, then if you were to go to sell that property as it lays, if you did that improvement, technically, legally, you could not advertise it as a 4 or 5 bedroom unless you had a septic permit issued, analyzed and issued, that said that the current tank and system as it is already there, without it being improved, without being upgraded, without being modified, without being customized, you'd have to have a septic permit official come out and say, yes, this can accommodate a 4-bedroom or a 5-bedroom. You can call those rooms other things in your advertising, even if you haven't done that next step. You could call it an entertainment room, you could call it a family room, you could call it a second living room, you could call it whatever you wanted. You could, but you could not categorize that as a bedroom space because it's not compliant with what the septic permit has authorized. So a big thing that people don't understand is this looks like she asked for 3. If she had asked for 10, they might have told her yes. If she had asked for 5, they might have told her yes. But it looks like to me all that was asked for was 3. So that doesn't mean necessarily that you could not get a permit for more with the current system. But until you have a professional go out there and analyze it for what you want to be able to define the situation as, you can't know. So my hope would be that the current system could accommodate a 5-bedroom, okay? Another thing that's really weird to me about septic permits, and I've been told this by septic permitting officials, is it doesn't matter how many kitchens or bathrooms you have. What matters is how many rooms are officially called bedrooms. And I think that the thought process behind this is such that a septic permit is designed to manage waste coming from the home. And if the home is advertised or designed to accommodate 3 bedrooms versus 5 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms, that implies a number of people likely to be occupying the space. And that then also implies the amount of waste that that system is going to need to be capable of managing, right? So, kind of interesting there when you really think about the nitty-gritty of it. But anyway, this is, I think, the theory behind why this is all done this way. And yeah, it's just kind of an interesting thing to contemplate. So if you were going to build additional structures throughout the property, or attempt to, if one were to imagine that you needed this much space for each 2,088 square foot structure, you would just measure the footprint of that space. And then this is not drawn to scale, mind you, okay? This is just a sketch, a quick sketch that was created by this person. Actually, this says it was inspected by David Butham, maybe? David E. Butham, inspected. So construction approval, yes. Inspected, number of visits 2. So I'm hoping that this means, and see, that says December 18th. This says December 17th. So is it possible that the permit was issued, the site was inspected, and then the final inspection is also indicated? I don't know if this means that he inspected the completion of the installation, or if he just inspected the site where the tank was going to go in or was planned to go. Anyway, the septic permit official currently for Roane County is Jeff Platt, and his cell is 865-266-1692. So if you wanted to explore things about this particular system, or could you get a new permit for the current system that allows you to define the basement potentially having 2 more bedrooms, could you, asking him who he might, if he could provide you with a list of soil mapping experts, if you want to get a soil mapping done of the acreage, and then have someone help you draw out a plan for where to place additional structures and where to propose septic systems. One of the people that came out, because again, the hope is that this property can accommodate a total of 14 home sites, maybe 15. So septic is going to have to be solved for every home site. One of the gentlemen that was a developer came out and looked at the property yesterday, and he suggested an idea that honestly had never crossed my mind before, but I thought was brilliant and practical and makes sense to me. I don't know if you're allowed to do it this way, but I can't really see why not. But he said, well, what if you built like a bunch of 1-bedroom, 1-bath cabins, and then spaced them out really nicely, but designed them such that every 2 or 3 of them was sharing a septic system. You know, so that way you're only installing maybe one big septic system per 3 one-bed, one-bath cabins, right? And they're all, and in each cluster of 3 is feeding into one septic system. I thought, wow, I love that idea. I mean, I can't see why not, but I'm not a soil scientist. I'm not a septic permit official. I'm not a soil mapping professional. I'm not an engineer, at least not in that sense. But I thought that was just a great idea and something interesting to explore. So anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to share about this. I'm really looking forward to finding out what research and historical records Roane County does find for me in regards to certificate of occupancy, start and finish of completion of the home itself that currently stands there. Because if I find out that the home is actually not from 1980 and is indeed from 1992, that's a 12-year difference in the age of the home, and it's pretty cool. It doesn't necessarily make a very big difference in the big scheme of things, but it is information that's valuable and helpful in regards to the home, and just very interesting. So I think one of the lessons here is that, oh, that's them now. Okay, I just got some exciting news. So it looks like there is a gal named Kelly who's going to be my go-to records person for this particular project, and she is supposed to be back on Thursday. Your office hours are supposed to be between 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. So today is July 21st, 2026, and I think it's Tuesday. Yeah, it's Tuesday. So 2 more days, and that's when I'll be able to get a hold of her. And if she's gone for a few days, I might not try and reach her till the end of the day. That way she has some time to get settled back in from being gone. Maybe she was handling a vacation or a family matter, and we all know when we get back to office jobs, there's lots of catch up to do. So I'm going to schedule on my calendar to reach back out to her around 3:30 p.m. That way she hopefully will have about an hour left in the office before she goes home, and maybe she can help me do that last little bit of research there. So let's see, where were we in discussing these topics? Let's go ahead and take a peek at the way the zoning office had described the potential to explore development of this property. The key thing here, the highest and best use exploration potential, is that the property has at least 7.75 acres. Some records indicate maybe 7.99. And that's another research thing that is a rabbit hole I need to go down, but I don't have time for that today. But because if I proved it was a full 8, then that would mean that you had a 16 home site potential there. But right now with the 7.75, we know there's at least 14, maybe 15, based on what the zoning office told us. So that is a little screen capture of that communication there. And we might just wrap up this video by clicking through the photo gallery for the property as it currently is. It's a very cloudy, overcast day, so I won't be doing the drone photos or videos today. We've had a lot of rain, which we really needed the rain. It's been nice to have the rain. But I'm waiting for that nice, dry, sunny opportunity with a blue sky and some puffy white clouds to get those nice professional videos and images from the drone launch. If you have any questions about this property, if you'd like to visit the property, if you'd like to walk the property lines, if you'd like me to pull GPS coordinates and provide you with a couple of free apps to use to help you locate the property lines, this section here that branches south-southwestwardly has huge metal stakes that are spray painted. You cannot miss them. There's also fencing that separates the properties on this side and also on this side. So that fencing might encapsulate all the way around. I can't recall. I know that the seller told me something about that. But you can visualize a fence that separates neighboring properties here and the fence that separates neighboring properties here. Another thing I want to clarify, in case I wasn't clear about it, each structure would have its own septic permit. So if you have a plan in mind to put a total of 14 or 15 home sites, you really want to try to get a permitting plan done. Let's say maybe you're going to build one house per year or one house every 2 years. You need to make sure that you take into consideration your long-term goals so that you have things spaced in a way that you're going to leave room for everything above and underground that you're hoping to achieve in each stage of and phase of that process. Today and tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday, the home, the HVAC system, the entirety of the interior is undergoing a deep cleaning and sanitization process. So Thursday morning will be the next time that we're able to have showings of the interior of the home. And in between now and then, I would ask if you want to go to the property just to see the exterior or peek in the windows or hike the property lines, please do schedule that with me first. That way I can reach out to the cleaning crew and the seller and make sure that we are not interfering with their processes, make sure we're not blocking in their vehicles, things. But they really said 2 days, let's not have anybody at the property. So I probably will just ask everyone to wait till Thursday morning, and there's notes in the MLS about that. That way everyone is getting the exact same information about showings. I'll click back through these in the opposite direction. My number is 865-617-4783. Again, that's 865-617-4783. I'd be happy to help you with all of your buying, selling, investing, analysis, and consulting related real estate goals. I can also help with property management solutions. We are almost back through to the beginning, and I will say this, I might even make a diagram for this in a bit, but this driveway that kind of borders the left side of the property, I personally, in a perfect world, would explore extending that to where it continues hugging the perimeter of the property, and then just and then bring it back here to connect, and just put a house every 100 or so feet, every 150 feet around that drive. Open up the core, keep some decorative trees around the perimeter and the border, some decorative and some privacy trees around the border. Place the homes such that those trees are not a threat to the structures. Keep decorative trees throughout the property selectively. There's a huge row of dogwood trees right along here that in early spring bloom, and I'm sure are absolutely gorgeous. Dogwoods typically have pink and white and a pastel yellow type color. They typically bloom after the redbud trees every spring in East Tennessee, and they're just super pretty. So you can selectively keep trees. You could keep a lot of the trees. You could just open up little building sites and just make sure there weren't any trees close to the structures that were threatening to the structure. Have little hiking trails. You could do a bunch of little mini cabins. Primary structures, single-family structures, the zoning code office is going to have a minimum square foot requirement typically. So if you're curious about what that is, reach out to me, send me a text, ask me to pull that piece of data for you and confirmation of it, and I absolutely will. That way you know what the size of each of those would need to be at minimum. I used to have that factor memorized for that zone code, and it just escapes me. I was just researching it a few months ago. I had pulled that number from the zoning office, but it's very doable. Okay, it's very minimal. Well, I better wrap this up. I hopefully I've not forgotten anything essential for this video. I need to return that individual's call. I hope you learned something new about real estate today, about the value of having a realtor, and about the value of working with me as your agent, whether you are a buyer, a seller, or investor. I have just the right amount of obsessive compulsive disorder. So I would love to work with you, help you achieve your goals. Give me a call. Texting me is the fastest way to get a fastest reply. Have a great day, and I'll see you for the next video. And again, remember, Thursday we're supposed to get results on all this mystery part regarding when was the home built, when was the certificate of occupancy issued. So we might get the answer to that Scooby-Doo mystery on Thursday. That's in 2 days. So check back on my YouTube channel to see if we were able to find that out. Thanks again. Bye-bye.